What's going on, guys? The Comics Kid 2099 here. Welcome to day 70 of the 365-day graphic novel review challenge. Today, I want to talk to you about Aquaman, The Drowning. This is part of DC's Rebirth initiative, which is kind of sort of a reboot, kind of sort of a soft relaunch of the DC universe, and this collects the first 6 issues of the new Aquaman ongoing series, as well as the Aquaman Rebirth one-shot, which basically just serves to reestablish the status quo, introduce us to a few new characters, and anyone who hasn't been reading Aquaman like me, this is a great way to get them into this world pretty quickly and effortlessly. And this is by Dan Abnett, Scott Eaton, Brad Walker, and Felipe Briones. And the premise of this is that Aquaman is the king of Atlantis, and he is a child of Atlantis and a child of the surface world. And so he is trying to establish peaceful relations between the surface world and Atlantis. And various forces are trying to prevent him from doing that. And by the end of the book, he is seen as a terrorist and a leader of a hostile nation that wants to wage war with the surface world. And the surface world is all too willing to wage war back against Atlantis and specifically Aquaman. And so he is trying to restore his good name and prevent an all-out war from happening. And that is where the book ends, and that's going to be where my first complaint is. With all the other Rebirth books that I read, the other 3, the stories that we got there were complete stories. Now, there might have been an instance like in Justice League where there were a few subplots left hanging, and presumably those are going to be followed up on in later volumes, but Volume 1 was still a complete volume by itself. This feels like walking into a movie and paying $8 for a movie ticket, and then halfway through the movie they stop the movie and they say, okay, if you want to keep watching the rest of the movie, you're going to have to pay another $8. It really feels like a cheat against us. And this wouldn't be as big of a deal if there was more substance in this book. There is one issue here where the entire issue is Aquaman fighting Superman. And I think you could have taken that issue out completely. You really don't need Superman to show up and fight Aquaman for an entire issue. But if you really want to keep that here, if you really want to see Aquaman kind of give Superman a punch in the face and say, listen, none of you Justice Leaguers really respect me for who I am, if you really want to keep that in this book, then you could have trimmed that down to like 4 pages of an issue instead of having it be the entire issue. I feel like this storyline, bearing in mind I haven't read the rest of it, I haven't read Volume 2, I feel like this storyline could have been done in one volume. It really didn't have to be stretched out like it is. But maybe I will feel differently when I read Volume 2. But right now, it does feel a little disappointing that we're only getting half of the story, and then I'm going to have to wait another 6 months to see what happens next. Speaking of things that I did not really care about in this book, I did not like Black Manta. I was arguing with someone on Twitter a few months ago. I said that Black Manta is not an interesting character. He is one of 2 Aquaman villains that everyone knows about, really the only 2 Aquaman villains that anyone knows about, and I think that the only reason that he has stuck around for as long as he has is because he has an interesting visual look, but he does not have an interesting character. Well, this person I was talking with on Twitter, they said that I should give Aquaman Rebirth a chance because it treats him as a very interesting character. Well, I've read the book, and I still don't think that Black Manta is an interesting character. So, this book starts with, and I am going to be spoiling some stuff, so if you haven't read this and you don't want to hear the spoilers, then stop the video right now. So, this book starts with Black Manta. He comes and he's trying to stop Aquaman from establishing this embassy where he's going to be kissing butt to a lot of surface world politicians and stuff. Basically, like I said, he doesn't want Aquaman to actually forge a peaceful relationship with the surface world. So he comes and he puts a stop to that, and he wants revenge on Aquaman because Aquaman killed his father. And that's given to us at the end of an issue. Like, it's a big end of the issue reveal, and you're thinking, okay, there's got to be some misunderstanding. Aquaman didn't actually kill this guy's father. No, he actually did. Aquaman thought that Black Manta's father had killed his own father. So he killed Black Manta's father, and then Black Manta comes in his Black Manta costume, and then we're told that Black Manta actually killed Aquaman's father. I don't know why. We're not given any character motivation for this guy. We don't know why he killed Aquaman's father, but after that, he's angry at Aquaman for killing his own father, and understandably so. This was an innocent man, or at least somewhat. Aquaman at one point says that his father was not an innocent man, even though he didn't kill his own father, but we don't really know why Black Manta kills Aquaman's father. We don't really know why he does anything in this book except for trying to kill Aquaman, and that's kind of resolved about halfway into this book, where Aquaman convinces Black Black Manta that nothing is going to be accomplished if he kills Aquaman. He's not going to feel better. He's not going to feel satisfied after carrying out his revenge. So then Black Manta is kidnapped by this organization called Nemo, and I think they are the ones who are kind of trying to put a stop to Aquaman being friends with the surface world. At least that's the impression I get. We're not flat out told that in this book, but it seems like they are the ones who are kind of behind some of the stuff going on in this book. But they capture Black Manta while he's en route to go to prison, and then he basically kills their leader, and he becomes the leader of this Nemo organization by the end of the book. Like I said, I still don't understand why he does anything that he does here. We've already determined that he is not going to feel satisfied by killing Aquaman, so what is he planning to do once he takes over Nemo? And we are told that Nemo, they are basically in charge of the world. They have been secretly behind everything going on the planet since the 1800s, so I have to wonder, why are they trying to put a stop to Aquaman forging peaceful relations with the surface world? Again, that's not something that's really explained, and maybe in Volume 2 it will be better explained. I'm still not 100% sure if this Nemo organization actually is the organization behind Aquaman's troubles in this book, because there's a terrorist organization that is from Atlantis that we get very early in the book, and it's possible that they're part of all of this. I don't really know, and that's another problem with reviewing this, is that really I'm only reviewing half of this story. I'm not even reviewing a complete story here, and so it's really difficult to talk about this, and when I do talk about it, mostly I'm just talking about the problems I have with stuff not being very well explained. And if you are going to have like a 12-issue storyline, which it seems that this is, then you should at the very least be taking your time that you have to explain everything, because if you're only going to be going at such a slow pace like you are, then you should at least have plenty of room in your comic to explain what's going on. Speaking of things I don't really care for, Mera. Usually I like Mera quite a bit. She is one of Aquaman's supporting characters that I really dig and am really interested in. In this book, I'm not very keen on her. She is basically racist against the surface world. I don't want to go that far, but many times in this book it points out that Mera does not like the surface world people. She calls them barbarians. She says that they are savages and that they don't deserve to have a peaceful relationship with the people of Atlantis. She would much rather just stay underwater and stay away from the people of the surface world. At one point, the people of the surface world, they believe that Aquaman is responsible for a terrorist act committed against a U.S. ship. And so he willingly submits himself to be arrested because he believes that this is a better way to get peaceful relationships going between the surface world and Atlantis than if he fights it and says, "You can't arrest me, I'm a king." He explicitly tells Mera like 5,000 times, "Do not come and rescue me. This is the way that it has to happen." So what does idiot Mera do? She comes and rescues him, and she says, "Well, it wasn't working." Well, Aquaman has a very valid point. He says, "Well, we'll never know now because you just ruined everything." And then she's like, "Well, I guess you just don't want to marry me then, do you?" Well, first of all, he didn't say that, Mera. Second of all, he later says, "Yes, I do want to marry you, but here's the thing," and this is me talking, not Aquaman. He is a king. He is the king of a nation. He gave her an order, and she explicitly ignored that. Later in the book, she says, "There are things that you're going to say that I'm not going to agree with." Okay? It doesn't matter what you think, Mera. You are not the king. At this point, you're not even the queen. You don't have any power to ignore his orders. And I don't know anything about Atlantean society. I don't know if they did get married. Would she have equal footing with Aquaman on the throne? I have no idea. But at this point, Aquaman is the king. And it's not about, "Oh, I'm a man and I get to tell the woman what to do." That's not what it's about. He is the king of a nation, and one of his subjects straight up ignored his orders and broke his law. To me, that's a little stupid on her part, and I feel like the book needs to address that in Volume 2. And it probably will, because it seems like Aquaman and Mera are not really on good terms at the end of this book. Of course, we don't really get to know because things are still looking pretty bad for them the last that we see them at the end of this book. But I really do wish that Mera had a little bit more of a reason to go and break Aquaman out of jail than what she did. Because basically it's like, "Oh, they tried to attack me. Even though you told me not to go and save you, I'm going to do it anyway." It doesn't seem very well thought out on her end. And it would be fine if that's the way her character is supposed to be portrayed, but I have a feeling that they want us to like her. They want us to think that she's really awesome and that she's really politically savvy, but she just comes off as a bit of an idiot to me. But if that's the way that they want to write her, if that's intentional, then I guess we'll see where that goes. But I don't think that that's intentional. It sounds like I really did not like this book. The one big thing that I liked about this book is actually the big reason to get this book, in my opinion. opinion. I really love getting to see the political machinations of this world. I really love seeing the surface world have a strained relationship with Atlantis and vice versa. There are Atlanteans who really do not like surface world people, and rightly so. They have a reason not to like people of the surface world, and there are people of the surface world who have a very valid reason to not like or trust the people of Atlantis, because in this book they mention stuff that's happened before this book about how Atlantis has attacked the surface world a few times, and I really like that. I really like getting to see this strain in everyone in this book. There are not any 100% bad guys in this book, except for Black Manta and Nemo, but the people of the American government, they are not portrayed as just mwahaha and mustache-twirling bad guys. They actually have a very good reason to not like or trust Aquaman, and I really like that. I would like to see this get resolved. I don't really want to see Aquaman become, not necessarily a tyrant, but just go back to Atlantis and say, screw all the surface world people, I'm going to my kingdom, and I don't care about any of you, and if you ever come in my oceans again, I'm going to kill you. I don't really want to see him go to that point, kind of like he was the first time we saw him in the Justice League cartoon. I don't really want to see him go that far, but I would like to see him try to build more of a relationship with the people of the surface world. I would like to see that happen, but it looks like that's going to be an ongoing theme of this series, and I am interested in seeing that play out. And even though there were quite a few things about this volume that I really did not like, I am going to get volume 2. I'm still very interested in this series, and I do want to continue reading it, and I think that you guys should as well. In the meantime, that's all that I have to say about this book. I hope that you guys liked my review of Aquaman the Drowning, and if you did, be sure to like, share, comment, and subscribe, and I will be back tomorrow with a different kind of video. In the meantime, you guys have a great rest of the day. Catch you later.